Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where the orchard of wisdom shows are at your fingertips. It ignites your soul, your heart, your spirit, your mind, and your body with illumination from people who have made the journey before you. They're here now to help you on your journey, on your path of self-discovery. We are funded by you, the audience, and the people we interview. If you wish to support us, please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com and press on our Fund Action button. Anything is appreciated. We'd like you to sit back and enjoy the shows. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Central Expressions, right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my repeat guest is Lily Walford. We're going to be talking about love is an everyday thing. It's not just the 14th of February, folks. And it's not just when you decide to fall in love and get engaged or just get married and you're in the euphoria of a new relationship. No. Love is an everyday thing. She says love is said to be one of the most sought after feelings. From childhood, adults are taught this feeling is normal. It's everywhere around us. We're born into a world full of love stories, fairy tales of princesses meeting princes on white horses. Yet, for some reason, there comes a time in life when we feel that we are missing the key emotion. People say that when you find love, it's like magic, but once it's gone, it can be even worse than before you ever experienced the feeling. Why is that? Where does the feeling go? In this episode, we're going to dive right into what real love is and how you begin a healthy relationship, and most importantly, how you can develop that healthy relationship with self. Because, folks, that is where it all starts. Now, Lily is a love guru, and she teaches love intelligence. I do invite you to go back and listen to our previous show where we talk about how she got into this and what is love. And the fact that you need to have a relationship with yourself before you can have a relationship with anyone else. But let's keep love alive beyond a certain day, and let's make it an everyday occurrence. How do we do that, Lily? Welcome back.
Oh, thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm super excited to be chatting about this because it's such an important topic. When we think about love, and we've got Valentine's Day here, I totally agree with love being an everyday element of our lives. And it's actually allowing and inviting it in and actually being able to give that as well. And also, like you mentioned before, building that relationship with yourself first, because I think so many people don't love themselves.
They look for it everywhere else,
Yes.
Love me, define me, refine me, complete me. No, baby, that's what you've got to do for yourself first. And then you invite the right love partner.
Yes, I think one of my mentors, we were talking about this recently, and he was saying to me about the difference about romanticized love versus real love. And he came up with this fantastic definition. I wish I would have come up with it because it is fantastic. And he was like, romanticized love is all about me. And it's like, actually, real love's about the other person,
True. You talk a great deal, and you've got to sign up for her newsletters, because she sends out these wonderful things that really keeps the conversation going. And lately you've been doing a great deal on narcissism, and how not to get into a narcissistic partner, but also I think the warnings of our own narcissism that can come through, which is I want you to love me. Well, love is a two-way street, right? And if it's all about me, and then where is the give and the take, and where is the harmony in that? How the heart goes dip here and then around like that, right? It's because you're on one side, he's in the other side, but you're both in the love bubble.
Yes, exactly. And I think, so many people, fall into this trap of watching the fairy tales, watching the rom-coms, and have this over romanticized, feeling and outlook of a relationship. I think I just wrote an article today about, what was it? Something, what is happily ever after? Because the truth is, when we look at the stories and we look at the rom-coms, it's like, okay, fantastic. They've finally realized they love each other. They've committed to each other at the end.
Yes.
Okay, what is actually the happily ever after in a relationship?
A nightmare.
The thing is, when we talk about like the happily ever after, is that the truth of it is that it's about acceptance.
Yes.
It's suddenly realizing, you're two human beings. You're not the two perfect people that went on a date together, that came out of this amazing persona enough to attract someone in. Actually start learning about the human elements of each other, accepting the good and the bad, and building on that. But unfortunately, that doesn't make great films.
True. You get all these things with then sequels. And it's like, well, now they've actually got to come up with the after, because most of your Disney fantasy love things have always just been there. I mean, Hallmark is the epitome of the love stories of falling in love. And it's the challenge of, miscommunication and then they finally find each other, and then it's meant to be happily ever after. But what about the next chapter? We don't see that. But in a lot of Disney shows now, we are seeing the next chapter. And where the relationship is meant to be there. But they kind of seem to brush over, they're happy now, they've got a kid and they're still Gucci, but nobody says how they're working on it. There is no guide out there. You look at, I don't know if you have it in England, but over here in North America, we have the Housewives of. And every single one of them is a train wreck. And the Botox and the padded and the thisted and the thatted, and there isn't anything original about them whatsoever. And it's cat fights and it's meanness, and they seem to be very mean to the husbands as well. And it's that if anybody's watching that and thinking that is a relationship, or that's how to love yourself, you're going down a one-way street to your own personal hell.
Yeah, and I think one thing I've noticed with the way relationships are portrayed on TV a lot is this codependent mess.
Yes.
You either have that or you have the completely avoidant. It's like, hang on, no, the healthy part is actually when you're two individuals and you're working together for each other's best interests, basically. I think, codependency in particular is scary because people have tried to normalize it. It's not normal to just be always wondering how the other person is feeling. It's not normal to check out of your own emotions and, basically sacrificing your own emotional health, your own needs for another partner. Right. That's, when you think about the whole, I don't really talk much about this, but the whole patriarchal ways that relationships were, that would have been deemed as something that was healthy.
Yeah, I know.
And
it was the woman's lot in life, and it was just something we accept. And it's that we are always talking about earth balance, spirit balance, soul balance, heart balance. Like, I'm a Libran, so I'm always constantly trying to balance. And people think balance has to be that it's rigid, equal on both sides. And no, it isn't, because life is a constant momentum. It's in constant fluidity. And we are in constant flow. So you need to find somebody that complements you, not completes you, and that you can be in the same rhythm with. Right? It isn't about, I'm your equal, you're unequal, you pay for this, I pay for this, and da-da-da. No, it is about that fluidity, because sometimes there's going to be a big wave and it's going to throw you out of equilibrium. But if you're in sync with each other, you can both ride that wave, right?
Yeah. And it's okay not to ride the same wave at times, because, when you think about spiritual growth, personal growth, what tends to happen is like, oh, okay, here's this backlog of stuff that's suddenly coming up through the layers. And it's like, when we think about codependent relationships, the first thing that codependent people do is they both get submerged into it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, no, don't do it. Whereas a healthy relationship, it's like, okay, this person's accountable for all this stuff that's coming up. They're working through it. Awesome. So they can meet their partner when they've reached the surface of whatever they've worked through.
Right. You can't
Yeah.
avoid working through, can you?
No, you can't. There's always layers to this
Yeah, I
stuff.
mean, you see people, and you know, in your paragraph, it was about from childhood, we're looking for that love, you know, when mother's arms or father's arms around us, feeling safe. Love is feeling safe, is feeling we can give our vulnerability and trust.
Yes,
In
trust is
respect, right? So
trust is one of the biggest ones.
huge, and you can't give that, you know, if you can't give your vulnerability to a relationship, then you're not trusting that relationship. So
The
what's
other,
wrong with that relationship, whether it be a partner or be anyone in life, you know? And very often we see people not trusting themselves, you know, because especially if you have been hurt, if the hurt is there on the defense all the time, not again, not again, it's not going to happen to me again. And you go into the defense and you're too scared to be vulnerable and just be your beautiful heart self because you're constantly on the defense. And that sabotages any form of either self-love or anyone else loving you truly.
yeah, because it all comes back to boundaries.
Yes.
Like, can you trust yourself enough to put the boundaries in place that allows your partner to know the expectations, for you to feel, you know, confident within yourself that you'll see through those boundaries and
Yes.
you communicate them? Because I think a lot of people tend to feel afraid of falling so far in love that they won't actually act out their normal boundaries. It's a bit like narcissistic relationships. People tend to look back and go, oh, why did I stay in that relationship so long? Why did I allow myself to stay in that relationship, right? There's chemical balances, neurological things at play there which allow people to stay in those relationships. But it's often when we look back and we go, oh my gosh, we crossed our own boundaries by staying in that relationship, or even if it was just a toxic relationship. And that's often, you know, the emotions that often come up around that is this anger and frustration, but it's usually mistaken because people believe it's against the other person. If they believe it's against the ex-partner, it's not. It's usually actually against themselves for staying, you know, for not being able to carry on their boundaries and actually live their life with an integrity to who they actually are.
Guilty.
I mean,
Yeah.
and it's
You know, it's
needed.
but you know, when I realized it, you know, when I kind of started doing my own self-recovery and I started going down that journey and discovering who I was and kind of reconnecting with my heart, because my heart was for my children, but it had shut down elsewhere. And it was, I realized I allowed the abuse. I didn't set the boundaries. And when I stopped allowing the abuse, and every time the argument came up, I would say, take it up with your mirror. That's the only one that's interested. And I'm not going to respond to it. I'm not going to feed into it. I'm not going to give you the boots to kick me anymore. Right? You know, there are my boundaries. There was the anger and the frustration that the control wasn't there anymore. And that I did have boundaries, that I was putting up those no's, and then eventually kind of the giving in. Oh, well, I guess I've lost this one.
And it's narcissistic relationships in particular are a little bit more complicated when it comes to boundaries as well. Mainly because stop me if I've already spoken about this, but when we have things like love bombing, what happens is they release these amazing chemicals in the brain, you know, the serotonin and the dopamine, and we get this spike, which is actually more addictive than a class A drug. So as soon as we, you know, get that, it's like, yes, this is amazing. And then all of a sudden, in narcissistic relationships, these drop down. So automatically, we're getting this withdrawal. Narcissistic relationships, we get that constantly, like, you know, crazy amount of times.
Yeah.
Creates that emotional fractionation, so we become addicted and also more pliable, because suddenly we're working hard for love and to stay within a narcissistic controlling boundaries, you know, their rules, in order to receive that love.
Yes.
And it's often when we're pushed too far where suddenly we start to wake up and go, oh, this isn't right. And
Right.
that's when you start saying, okay, yeah, I'm taking back that control now. But when you're in it, it's hard to see it. You almost have to go over the edge until you're able to go, okay, these are my boundaries, and start reclaiming them again.
I have a lady on, Laura, this week too, whose husband was very narcissistic and became very violent. And he actually ended up accidentally killing himself. But had he not, he was just so furious that night that it would have been either her or her daughter, because he was beyond control. And with the he had Prozac and something else in his body, and he was not meant to drink, and he was drinking like crazy, and they were at to do together, and he was just going all out, violent on her, violent on anyone. They took her away, but if he had gone home, he would have either harmed the daughter or killed her. He was in that state of being. And it's difficult when you have somebody that is an injured narcissist. There's the ego narcissist. It's all about them, themselves, their image. But then if you have that narcissist where it's about their inner pain, their lack of love or like of themselves, but it's still all about them. Why aren't you making me happy? Right? Why aren't you doing this for me? It's a different type of narcissism, isn't it? And it's much more threatening.
So it sounds like, from the example that you shared, which is heartbreaking, by the way, it's just terrible when things like that happen. It's actually a psychopathic narcissist. So, and the reason I say that is because psychopaths in particular, they believe that they're above the law.
Yeah.
They tend to do things which are more deviant, more dangerous, more just devastating than what a narcissist will. Which is just absolutely heartbreaking. But narcissists and psychopaths, what they tend to have is the empathy part of the brain is obviously underdeveloped. I think I shared that last time.
Yes.
So the thing is, when we're talking about love with the narcissist, they can't feel that. And that's one thing that empaths really, really struggle to understand, because we love to be able to swoop in there and heal them and make them better. But the thing is, it's like asking them to feel is like asking a fish to walk, or asking you to smell the color purple. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So, and there needs to be that level of acceptance there. And this is where it's so important to love yourself enough to be able to, step back, keep yourself safe. And unfortunately there's no cure for genuine narcissism.
And you want to fix them. You fell in love with them, you want to fix them. You also think that you're a part of the problem. Would they be like this if it wasn't for me? And as you said, anytime somebody demands that you love them because they're incapable of loving themselves, it's a red flag. Right? There's an issue there. And that one of the main things, we talked about this in the last show, and it's got to be reiterated, no one can love you like yourself. Now, I'm not talking narcissistic ego. I'm glorious. I'm talking about loving yourself from the inside out. All your beautiful flawsomeness, all your wonderful quirks, everything that makes you uniquely you. Can we always be in improving on ourselves, learning, adapting? Yes, that's what the journey of life is about. But if you want love around you, you've got to be the love. You've got to be the love yourself. Nobody else is going to complete you. They can complement you, but not complete you. So if you've got somebody that you're in a relationship with and they seem to be extremely needy, why don't you love me? Why are you looking elsewhere? Why are you doing this and that? Red, red, red flag, right?
Yeah, it comes back to, I think one of the most important values that I have within my business is seeing the truth.
Yeah.
And there's a few different reasons why. It's like seeing the truth, you're able to accept yourself for who you really are. And that's important. The truth also heals. When you see the truth rather than the story that you're projecting, like, oh, I didn't make them love me, or I didn't try enough, or whatever it might be. And also, the truth is a foundation to any relationship that you create.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, it's like understanding the truth of the situation. Like when, you know, any time that things are going well or any time that things are going bad, if you can start to see the truth and understand it, you know, automatically you have got more connection. You actually understand what's going on. You're able to build on that, and you're able to make a informed decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as soon as we have the truth that's taken out of any situation, we are unable to make that informed decision that we need to do in order to take the right direction for our life and the relationship.
Informed decision. This is actually something you specialize in. You know, you're the love intelligence guru. It isn't about, you know, the kumbaya, love yourself and all flowers and roses. You know, you get down to the neurological and the emotional, the chemistry, you know, everything that goes into the ingredient of self-love and the way we look at love. And we're inclined to, you know, we all the world needs is love, which is absolutely true. You know, if we all stepped into love, we wouldn't have so much angst and animosity and divide and hate or anything else. Love is the answer. And all the love songs are right. But how we get to that love is nobody's really talked about. It's just meant to be, oh, one day you'll meet a nice boy or a nice girl or a nice partner, whatever gender you are, and your heart will tell you. Well, your heart is going to pump for different reasons. It's going to fall infatuated with someone for different reasons. That doesn't mean it's a forever after, is it? Because there's so many other equations in there that we have not been taught.
Yes, exactly. And I think this is one of the reasons why I work in the way I do. It's not about just focusing completely on energy and spirituality. It's not about just focusing on, you know, self-love and all these different things. It's actually accumulation of, you know, energy. It's about personal development. It's actually about, you know, one thing we brought in, which I freaking love, is being able to read body language to a level where we can see if someone's lying better than a polygraph machine, and being able to understand that level of psychology that helps with that compatibility. And also it helps you to connect more with your spirituality too.
Yes.
Because if you're able to, you know, feel something that doesn't feel right, or your intuition kicks in, you're able to see the information there. It's right out there in front of you, and see it in its physical form too. So it's like integration from all levels with yourself, and then being able to do that with a partner. So it's pretty powerful.
I'm a True Colors coach, which I think I mentioned before, which is the core personality traits that we are. Maya's a big program. And I know I'm a screaming blue. I am a screaming blue. And you know, that it's the air sign. We've got to constantly be on the flow. Do not contain us, you know, because we'll become a little miniature tornado. And don't try and control us. We're going to go where the energy sends us. But the other key personalities is extremely important that we know what we are, and what is the strength of our other perceptions, because it's the way we are going to receive information. It's the way we're going to interact with people. When we understand that human personality trait, now we actually understand how we learn, right? How we actually communicate, why we communicate from that level, because that's our perception. But we also learn to read other people's perception. Well, that person isn't a blue. So for me, talking in a blue language right now to a green analytical person isn't going to work, because I'm just airy fairy to them. They want kind of data and facts and down to earth. Well, the golds are definitely down to earth. They're the earthy people. But if we have a better understanding of how we interact, we'll also know how we attract. And when we attract, we'll know how to communicate in a way that we both can hear each other.
Yeah, it's super important, because, you know, when we think about, you know, relationships, it's being able to interact in a way where you can see each other fully.
Yes.
And I think that's what a lot of people, you know, struggle with within, you know, relationships, is being able to feel like you're being seen. It's also feeling like you can understand your partner fully, because otherwise that's where you end up with the betrayal, or how did that happen, or why are they making that weird decision?
Yes. Well, you talked about body language. You know, are you all right, hun? Yes, fine. And you know the body's going, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And you can go up and say, come on, I know there's something. I know there's something. You know, come on, you can tell me. And then that's that permission for them to be vulnerable, because maybe it's something they feel they need to battle on their own, or they don't want to impose upon you. But their body language has already given it away. And if that love is true, then it is, no, this is a shared burden. It's always a shared burden. You know, let's look at it together. And, you know, very often can't be resolved by the other person, but maybe just the support of that other person is resolve enough.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's about, you know, what I believe with relationships when they're healthy, it's about doing what's right for the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when you can make those decisions together, whether it's, okay, I need support or I need space or whatever it might be, you know, you make those decisions together in a way that works for both of you. And I think this is one of the reasons why I love the word collaborate rather
Yes.
than compromise, because, you know,
Yes.
compromise is just, you know, someone has to sort of...
Somebody's got to give in, right? Yeah, no. I mean, it's a
it's like,
slippery
how is
slope.
that healthy? I mean,
You know?
do you compromise with your friends? You know, it's like, no. You know, people who are genuinely who genuinely want the best for you, or genuinely, you know, love and appreciate you, they're going to want to make a decision that feels both, you know, great for both of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's when you know you've got, you know, the right people around you, people who genuinely love you.
Genuinely, yes, absolutely. But you know, it's there's whatever game the gender, you and them. Be strong in love with oneself, one's purpose in life, who you really are. When you come together and those fingers lock, it now is us. But because two strong people who know what love is have come together and locked together, it is unbreakable, because you're in that beautiful sphere of love, of trust, of being able to communicate, of companionship, of collaboration, of cohesiveness, and all the other wonderful C words. It doesn't become cancerous because there isn't a few links that are loose, right? You're two beautiful whole people coming together that when you're the us, you're unbreakable.
Yeah. And I think the only way that you can actually truly be the us is if you can grow together.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, you know, where a lot of people fail. They go into a relationship and they're either pulling in two different directions,
Mm-hmm.
or they're falling into that codependency,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, they're just not right for each other and there's not that space to grow. And I always like determine whether a relationship's healthy or not by understanding, okay, did two people grow together or not?
Yeah.
Because the relationship, you're always holding up the mirror to each other in whatever way it might be.
Yeah. You know, I talked about this in the last show to my daughter and her husband, and you know, we will highly approve of her choice. And you know, one of the things is they really focused on their friendships, the friendship, you know, and it wasn't the hot and thing of love, you know, it was, I like you, we've got the same humor, and it was building of a friendship, and that turned into love. And now they have a baby, and of course babies are very narcissistic because they take all their time. You can teach them empathy very young, but it doesn't matter if it's still about them. You know, if they want to get up, they're going to get up. So they're alternating times at 5 o'clock getting up in the morning with him. But they are both hands-on parents. But before that, when my daughter was going to school, it was like, no, you concentrate on school, don't concentrate on work right now, I'm here for you. And then if he wants a career change, it will be the other way around. It is about the individual growth, so the family becomes stronger.
Yes, I love that. And I think that, again, you know, that's what you can tell with a healthy relationship. There's this thing of like, look, I want my happiness is a part of seeing you growing, and vice versa. Because if you're growing and if you're focusing on your personal development, your personal growth, that's going to benefit the relationship in a powerful way. And, you know, anyone who's kind of struggling in a relationship, you know, the worst thing you can do is actually just focus on the relationship. Often it's actually times where you need to just take a step back, focus on yourself, because the truth is, if something in your life isn't feeling right, if something's not feeling right for you emotionally, outside of the relationship, then guess what?
Yeah.
It's going to affect the type of lenses that you're looking through on the other areas of your life. And, because when you've got someone close to you, it's easier to project on them and them to become the problem.
Yes.
Where you create another issue within the relationship. So, a lot of this is actually allowing yourself to come back to yourself, still being the individual and still being the partner.
Yeah. And I think also understanding everybody in a relationship has a different role to play. Right. And it's, I want equal. We're going to do things, exactly the same, or all the way down the middle. And I don't know if you ever remember the movie Joy Luck Club.
No.
A good movie to watch. It's an old one, but it's a good one. But there's a man and wife there where they split everything. And then they had bought the groceries and he said, well, I'm not paying for this. I don't eat ice cream. So, and it got just such nitty gritty on the groceries, and that you knew that the problem was way bigger than the ice cream. Everything was so about mine, yours, ours, and there was no us there, and you could see it screaming at you. And I think is everybody does have a role to play. My daughter right now is mother 24/7, or she is going back to work part-time, but mother 24/7, and he works, but when he comes home he's dad, and then they have 2 hours a night with their husband and wife. Right. And which role you're in, step into that role. When you do become a mother, it's very easy just to become so engrossed with your children you forget that you're a woman and a wife. Right. And that you have to step into these other roles, these other people that you are, to keep them alive. And each of us has a role, each of us has a strength, and that doesn't mean that person is less than.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it comes back to being able to step back and go, okay, what do I need to be able to operate as the best version of me?
Yeah.
What time do I need to dedicate to the relationship? What time do I need to dedicate? You compartmentalize a little bit, but it's about making sure that each area of your life is still getting the best of you whilst you're still getting the best out of you as well.
Yes.
And I think, when big major life things change, whether it's a new job, baby, businesses, whatever it might be, it's important to have a look at the balance within your life. And you might not get the balance right straight away. And that's okay, but you can work together to find that. And the other thing is, I love what you were saying about, splitting groceries down the middle. Oh gosh, it's so true. But it's like, there's something that's really important when you look at a relationship, is the strengths and weaknesses of each individual will be the strengths and weaknesses of the relationship.
Yes.
So it's like identifying those and working together on those as well for the benefit of both of you.
Yeah. Last week I did a couple of shows with people who had been married a long time, and one of them spent 17 years on a 300 square foot yacht or boat with his wife traveling around the world.
Wow.
And never argued. And we look at that kind of relationship and go, that's what we would all love to achieve, that we can be in close quarters like that, being adventurous and not fight, and there's somebody else who had 42 years with her husband before he died and misses him desperately. And we're inclined today to look at a relationship, if it lasts 10 years, well, that was a good run, right? We're not looking at relationships for life.
Yeah, it's making sure that you're happy.
I
think there's a slightly different turn, but there was a fantastic scene. I used to love watching Sex and the City, and one of the things that one of them says is that you can tell if you're in a good relationship or not. Is it making you smile or is it making you sad? And it's
right.
Like, yes, is it.
Yeah.
And it's also finding, you think about when you're bringing two very different personalities together, it's finding how they work together. And I don't know if you've heard of someone called John Gottman, but he's studied relationships for decades. and he can actually predict the ones that would break down to real complete accuracy. I think it's something like 97% accurate. And one of the things he was saying is about the way these couples learn to interact. So sometimes you might have a couple that prefers to argue things out versus a couple that doesn't argue.
Right.
And the truth is, both of them are great.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you get one that doesn't argue, one that likes to argue, and they don't match the communication styles. Yes. Because they don't get each other. Their brains are not wired in the same way. So it's all about finding your own personal blueprint together.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're building something totally new, and each one of you are bringing your expertise to it. You know, when you look at building a house, you've got somebody, the architect, that can see the vision of what the house is going to look like and does the blueprint. You've got the electrician that knows where all the wiring going, the plumber and the foundator and the roof. And then you've got the decorator. And each one of you in a relationship is going to have this strength, and that one's going to have that strength. And if you come together in excitement and building that house, I don't mean, you know, necessarily because that's what my daughter and her son-in-law did 2 weeks before the baby came. They finally moved in. But it is knowing that that's what you're building, is you're building your home, your roof over your relationship. Yes. Right? And everything that you want within there. And it's not, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. Don't do the can'ts. Focus on the cans. Well, I know you're good at this and I'm good at this. Let's do this and see how it can come together, and look at what we can do and boost each other up, encourage each other.
Yes, and it's also okay if something goes wrong. You might realize that you've mucked up with
the roof on skew.
Well, no, even realizing that's not the plumber, that's the electrician. It's like realizing actually, and I think it's being able to have those conversations where things haven't worked as well, and being able to be open, honest, and say, okay, how can we make this better?
Yeah.
And look back on it from that objectivity, that objective, non-judgmental place, and go, okay, what happened?
Yes.
And being able to build on that and say, okay, if this is going to happen again, or if this happens again, what's the best move forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the thing. We as human beings are always going to make mistakes. That doesn't mean they're failures. That just means they're lessons learned. Okay, you know what? We did it that way last time. Let's change it this time because we know that that's not going to work. And it's that, well, you made that decision and it didn't work. I can't trust you again. No, don't go down there. Right? It's like, you know what? Maybe it wasn't a good decision. What did we learn from it? Not to do it that way. Let's redirect. What else can we do now? Right?
Yes, exactly.
That comes about being kind with yourself as well as with each other, isn't it?
Yes, and that's the only way you can grow. You
right.
can't grow with criticism.
Yes.
You can't grow with defensiveness. You can't grow with stonewalling, even with your own emotions and your partners. You can't grow with those things. But you can grow with love. You can grow with honesty. You can grow with compassion. And they're the only things that you can truly actually build upon.
If you're in a relationship and the person's coming home and immediately your stomach does a twist, oh God, they're home. People have that with themselves and they don't realize, oh God, I'm alone. I need to go out. I need to be around people, because they don't want to be alone with themselves. It's the same fear, right? Yes. You don't want to be alone with a bad partner, and you don't want to be alone with self. Well, what is that telling you? It's telling you need to do some work on yourself to get to that place where you can be utterly alone on a desert island and be quite happy with self.
Yeah, it's like it's being able to, any sensation of the body is asking, what does this need?
So how do we fall in love with ourselves first then? Because that's, to have that everyday love, we've got to be the everyday love.
So it's very similar to how you build a relationship. Do you spend quality time with yourself? Do you actually sit down and go, okay, what am I feeling? What's coming up? What are these thoughts? Do you take that time to actually have a look at that internal dialogue? Are you being kind to yourself? Or are you nagging yourself? Are you criticizing yourself? And, also be aware of what direction you're going in. You don't have to have everything mapped out. But as humans, we need to know that we're moving forward. And it's praising those steps forward, even if there's something that didn't go quite right. That's still a learning moment, and you're able to move forward from that. And I think the starting point of those things are super, super important, because the majority of people don't connect with themselves. People don't acknowledge what they're feeling. They either go into numbing behaviors where they're crazily busy, or they're watching lots of TV, or they're drinking, or they're binge eating, or they're there's lots of different addictions that you can go down, but they're numbing. And you can even numb through people, like you were saying, sitting down there and going, oh, I need to talk to someone, I need to reach out to someone. So it's being able to see actually what comes up when you say, right, I'm going to sit here, I'm not going to go near any technology, I'm not going to talk to anyone all day. How does that feel? What does that actually bring up? And are you comfortable with having that alone time with yourself without using the TV or escapism as a crutch? And when you actually start to actually identify the feelings that are coming up, sometimes we can't talk about the emotion straight away. Sometimes being able to go, I'm feeling this sensation within my body. I'm feeling, different sensations. And you can start then to build upon that, say, okay, what the emotions are, and start to understand yourself. And this is how you build that connection. And, I always say, you cannot connect to someone as deeply as you are connected to yourself. That's your limit.
Yeah.
So building that connection with yourself is just so, so important when it comes to the quality of your relationships, which also, according to Tony Robbins, I love this quote, that your relationships indicate the quality of your life. The quality of your relationships impact the quality of your life, should I say?
Yes.
And it's so true.
It is.
So true.
It is. We talk on social media and everything all about numbers. You've got to have more followers, more numbers. And it's like, we're not talking about quality connections.
No.
And, I'd rather have the far fewer people and connections where you can put something out kind of, I'm needing a boost today, folks, feeling down. And next thing you know, you've got a whole load of people there for you, praying for you, or, cheer up, or this or that. That's camaraderie. We all need that camaraderie because we all want to be a part of a village that cares, right? But we've also got to be willing to be vulnerable, willing to ask for help. And I think we've certainly gone into a society in the last, 30, 40 years of, no, it's okay, I'm tough, I can work through this on my own. I'm guilty of that. Mostly because I am the counselor, so it's hard to be counseled, right? But it is realizing that a few good friends that know you, maybe all of them in different ways, that you can turn to. And sometimes you can't turn to your partner because you want to work something out before you bring it to them. And having an outside view of the situation can give you some clarity because you're stuck in the middle of it and you don't know how to unravel it. And it's loving yourself enough to seek help and advice, because we're not meant to know it all, folks. We don't come with this automatic chip in our head that tells us our next move. This is what life is about, is the experience of it, of learning from it. And I know from my own personal use is that when you are scarred from a relationship, it does interfere with trusting other relationships. It definitely does. And it becomes something that you have to be extremely mindful of, not letting the past pain get in the way of future happiness. And it's something you have to be aware of all the time. You're always on guard. And it's like, no, if you're on guard, you're not going to be actually able to feel that person and what they really could mean to you, right? Drop the guard. Then you will actually see the flags a lot better, if there are any, right? You can't see the flags when you're on guard because there is just one big flag. Again, going back into that vulnerability and that being alone with self and learning to love oneself and in your flawsomeness without being critical. And you can critique yourself. That doesn't mean you're being critical. You can critique yourself and go, you have a tendency to do that. Maybe that's not so good, because you're learning from it, right? So we've got to be willing to take it in order to become.
Yeah, I think it's going back to the critical thing, is a difference between criticizing and constructive feedback.
Yes.
And, you know, you always find that constructive feedback is always coming from this loving place of building you up. And criticism usually comes from a place of control and fear.
Yes. Yes. And that includes self-criticism.
Yeah, it does. It does, because there's always, you know, every behavior, every feeling, every emotion that comes up is signaling something. It's needing something. It's needing you to do something or witness something or showing you something. And whether that's, you know, trying to keep you safe, whether that's trying to, you know, get you out there dating, whatever it might be, you know, it's doing something for you, and it's being able to understand as well, where is that coming from? Is it coming from a place of love, or is it coming from a place of fear?
Right.
And we often find that fear, you know, if it's from a place of fear, it's understanding it. Is it, you know, is it to actually protect you? Is it there because it's trying to create this defense mechanism? It's trying to, you know, stop you from doing something dangerous. It's understanding where is that coming from and what's the intention behind it.
Yeah.
There's a balance to everything. There's a true balance to everything. And when you can start to understand, okay, the healthy balance of everything, then you can navigate from a healthier place and reach the type of life that you truly want and desire. But as soon as you're navigating from an unhealthy place, you can feel that. You can feel that in your body. You know that it's not right. This is like the self-sabotaging element. And the funny thing is, even this can be a pattern. This can be a learned behavior from childhood, from trauma, from, you know, fear, whatever it might be. And they're the things that, you know, we don't want to look at. But when we do, that's where the powerful growth comes. And it comes back to being able to see the truth of that situation. Where is it coming from? What is it causing you to do? So you can heal that and grow.
Right. Right. I know for a lot of people, self-love is something they're a little scared of, not only because of kind of doing the work to get there, but also they don't want to be deemed as egotistical, you know, full of themselves, all as we have seen the word narcissism really being thrown around a great deal now and misunderstood in a lot of ways, that it's narcissistic behavior to love yourself. We're talking about two different types of loves, aren't we? And that it really quite essentially, if you want to have a quality of life in everything you do, in a relationship with your work, with your friends, with your loved ones, you really need to step into self-love. But that the importance of you is very, very important, but not self-importance, right? So how do people recognize the line of somebody who truly loves who they are and what they represent compared to that egotistical narcissist who's in love with themselves and expects everybody else to love them?
It's how they, it's basically empathy. It's like, what's your empathy towards yourself? What's your empathy towards others? Because a narcissist cannot empathize.
Right.
So if you think about the internal dialogue of someone who can empathize, it would be something like, you know, I've done this wrong, but that's okay. Or it might not be okay. You know, you have to really listen to your internal dialogue. A narcissist will unable to pick that up. They usually create this big persona. They can't see it. You know, they're not accountable for their actions, for their words. They cross boundaries because they're unable to empathize with themselves and empathize with others. So empathy is the biggest difference between someone who's self-absorbed and someone who's just got self-love and self-worth. And the truth is, you know, when we talk about self-worth and self-love, it's boundaries. If you have good boundaries, it's not about being hard on someone or saying no to someone and having this horrible defensiveness. It's actually being able to tell people, this is how I expect to be treated.
Yeah.
This is my respect boundaries. And the truth is that actually helps someone. You know, it's like this social etiquette of like, look, this is how I like to be treated. This is my rule book. Here, you can feel safe within that because you know that this is going to help me feel good.
Right.
And vice versa.
And also give them a chance, right? I mean, if somebody slips up because it happens to maybe be old patterning, or they're just learning your boundaries and they overstep, oh, that's it, you're out of here. I mean, that's not helping, because they're trying. And then you go, sorry, that's just a little too far out of my comfort there. And then they go, oh, okay. All right, sorry, I didn't mean to press the boundaries. But if you mean it go on the attack, there's no chance of that relationship going anywhere.
Yeah, it's working together. It's realizing you're a team, you're both on the same side.
Mm-hmm.
And, and it's also recognizing, okay, was there empathy there when they
Yeah.
realized that they overstepped?
Right.
And are they actually taking, are they making the effort to not do that again? Are they taking notes? Because in a healthy relationship, it's not just about, saying yes or no to situations. It's about going, okay, how can we improve this? How can we future-proof this? And it's not to say it won't, that there won't be any slip-ups in the future. It's basically, how do we build up on this mistake? And that's the difference between a healthy relationship and an unhealthy one, is the way they rebuild after conflict, after things going wrong, and how they navigate life together.
The one thing I have observed of people who have gone on their own self-recovery and stepped into their place of love, especially if they've come from anything abusive in the past, is that they're very protective of who and why they are today. And they're so fearful of breaking, they don't know how to bend. And we all have got to be rather like the willow tree or the branches of a tree. We've got to be flexible. We have to bend. That doesn't mean you bend over backwards into a pretzel or to the point of breaking, but we do have to, again, go back to that flow and be bendable. And that can be, again, a defense thing, can't it? Like a fear of, no, if I bend a little, you're going to push me to break. And that comes back, it's our issue, not theirs.
I think for me, it's about what actually feels good and what works for you. Because the truth is, if someone's come out of like a traumatic relationship or something like that, and they're going into that and they're feeling that tension, or they feel threatened around their identity, or anything that comes up around that, it's about going, okay, how can we work from this? And it might be that little tiny bend to begin with.
Yeah.
And it's that patience, and it's just understanding, okay, what feels good, what works for you. And there's definitely needs to be more flexibility as you start to trust and build that into a relationship. But it's understanding what feels good or what could feel good. And it kind of comes back to that, the emotional side of connecting to yourself again. So you're able to communicate to a partner, and it's self-awareness again.
Yes.
It's understanding that. So yeah.
We know that if we start a job, we're bringing our expertise, but we're going to have to navigate the arena, the people there. They've got to get to know you. You've got to get to know them. You don't go in there all pushy. Well, I'm here now. Blah.
Right.
It's everybody is kind of, feeling everyone out, and where everybody belongs, and how we can work together, and who are you. It's exactly the same in relationship, with friendships, with business, with somebody you meet as a potential partner. There is a beautiful discovery there. And if you're willing to go with it openly, and like, your boundaries, but you don't want your boundaries so close to you that you're back to the defense. You want your boundaries broad enough that you're willing to experience new things and discover new things. And it's all about that discovery, which can be extremely exciting. And you'll know, okay, no, that's my limit. I'm not willing to go there. I'm not comfortable with that. And this I am comfortable with. But I think one of the things we've lost as human beings is that sense of discovery, of exploration, of adventure. And because we've become so guarded and so distrustful as a human race, that we've forgotten that love is about exploration, and that how you're going to know unless you're willing to discover.
Yeah, I think as well, it's like it also comes back to the way that we're taught. Everything has turned so logical, and people have forgotten how to feel. You
Yes.
know, I mean, if I turn around to someone and said, okay, how are you feeling about yourself? And they go, yeah, awesome. It's like, hang on, well, let's just review what you've actually just shared with me. There's
Yes.
a disconnect here. It's like, logically, yes, okay, you think you're great, but so I think it's really important that people are able to connect with that, because if you're unable to connect with that, it's really hard to navigate those boundaries.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is as well, people are so afraid to give.
Yes.
And it's like, this is the thing, you know, we're now in this world where it's very transactional, you know, or if we do give, we give to get. And it's
Yes.
like, it doesn't work. It
No.
does not work. And the problem is people bring this past into relationships, and you get these transactional relationships, or trying to almost operate fully on a logical level of how things should be. So it's really, I can't say enough of how important it is to really connect with yourself, connect with your emotions, connect with that part of you, because being able to navigate from that place, you can actually feel into your intuition. You can feel into what feels good for you. You can feel what doesn't feel good to you. And I love the word exploration. I freaking love that word, because it's true. We need that sense of discovery. We need that curiosity. And also, you know, when talking about this thing of being able to give,
Yes.
you know, feel where you're giving from. If you're giving from a relationship, how are you giving? Because, you know, whether it's that transactional place, or if you're giving, you know, does it feel icky? Does it feel good? You know, what's coming up? Because that will give you an idea of how that, you know, what you're actually picking up energetically within that relationship or that circumstance, and whether that's something to do with you or whether that's something to do with them. It's all about, like you said, this exploration of what's actually truly going on. But
if you're giving to get, you know, or I've given you this, what have you got for me?
yes,
You know, it takes away any form of element of surprise, or puts people on the spot. I think any time we give, we actually do automatically receive, because if we're giving of ourselves or giving something that's going to make somebody else happy, that is already your receiving gift.
Yes, because you see this all the time in relationships where it's like, I've done this for you.
Yes.
Why have you? And it's like, oh, cool, you've done something really, really nice for someone. Now you're rubbing their nose in it,
Exactly.
giving it. It's like, come on.
It's like being given a gift with the price tag still on.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I've had a few times, and it's like, this is what you're worth.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's also this level of control, because what
Yes.
it's communicating is a lack of trust.
Right.
Which comes back to boundaries, which comes back to self-worth and all those beautiful things.
We can have those 30, 40, 50 years of relationship. We can have that. But we've got to understand it is you both being strong in who you are as beautiful individual human beings, and that how you complement each other. You will complete each other, and that complementariness, that's the whole point. It's that, you know, it's wanting to, at the end of the day, go home and see each other, miss each other, because you really do like being together. You like your time together, but also understanding they need time with friends or other people or themselves, and that's okay, because they come back feeling better about themselves, which then is better in the relationship. So it is the give and take. It is the flexibility without the breaking, without having to bend into a pretzel. And it is about the more abundant you are in your own personal life, the more abundance we are in our together lives. But fundamentally, before we go looking for love elsewhere, it's time to look in, isn't it? Time to have a damn good talk with what's inside, and like, what's stopping you from being the love for yourself.
Yes, because it's giving to yourself. You know, the truth is, you know, when you have a look at a relationship, you don't just become enmeshed.
Right. Immediate meld, you know, like Spock mind.
Like, oh, come on. You know, when you're single, before you enter a relationship, you know exactly what you want. You know exactly what sort of life you want. You've got that idea. that doesn't go away, you know. And if you meet someone who's on a similar journey, fantastic, but you're still going to have your differences, and that's the best part, because you're able to go and explore those differences, come back and bring that back to the relationship.
Exactly.
And having that space creates desire, it creates chemistry, it creates that independence, and it stops the insecurity and the horrible ickiness that can happen in codependent relationships as
and
well.
stops the competitiveness. You know,
Right.
if somebody suddenly got a degree or written a book or achieved this at work, or something good has happened to them, it should be celebratory.
Yeah.
You celebrate that. Wow, a wonderful way to go. I knew you could do it. Not like competitive. Well, it wasn't as big as mine, or I'm going to go out and do this now, because that's insecurity.
Yes, because the truth is, you know, having that space where you can grow.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, and you bring that back to the relationship, and the relationship evolves and grows too. You know, that's
exactly.
so important. Yeah.
Now, this is your entire platform of helping people find love of self in order to attract the right partner, which you guarantee that they will attract that right partner when they step into that right vibration. So how about you tell us a little more about exactly what your platform is?
Yeah, so we work in a way that's very, very different to most people. So we take time to really understand you. What do you need to heal? How do you need to grow? What's the things that are currently standing in your way? Even if you don't, if you're unaware of what's going on, we're able to take you through, you know, understanding yourself at that deeper level. Then then going through the healing process, then understanding who's actually compatible with you, how to you know, and we do that by using, you know, behavioral profiling, $30 million worth of government-backed research.
Wow.
So then we're able to then bring that in and say, right, this is where you go and meet the right person.
Right.
Here's your personalized strategy of being able to do that. So you're meeting someone who's aligned with you. And then we go beyond of actually, how do you build that relationship? How do you build that relationship that's unique to both of you, that works with both of you? And the beautiful thing is, I've just, before jumping on this interview with you, I just interviewed someone who met the one within 21 days of working together.
Excellent.
And how they went from narcissistic relationships into this amazing relationship where they're living together now. They work in similar businesses. They've created a new business together. It's just been just amazing. I mean, she even I'm gonna get teary. She even came off antidepressants for the first time in 20 years.
Right.
You know, because it's this, like I said, discovery of self, understanding what's right for you. And when life feels good, it feels good. You know, everything vibes together.
Right. I mean, most people don't realize how unhappy they are until they're willing to do the work to happiness. And then they step into that happiness. My God, I've been missing out. I've been missing out. Why the hell didn't I know about this beforehand? And, you know, when you are happy with self and you love yourself and and the thing is love of life. When you've got a reason to get up for every day, you love who you are, where you're going. And it's also where you meet people. You're not going to go into an arena that isn't your arena, right? You know, you're not going to go and do taekwondo if you know, reading a book is your thing. You know, go and read a book on the waterfront. You'll attract something. But your frequency, your vibration of that self-love and love of life and love of everything around you is pittering out. Somebody's going to pick up that vibe. Oh, somebody on the same vibe as me, same frequency as me. And then automatically there is a connection because you are on the same frequency, on the same wavelength.
Yes, exactly.
And it's all achievable for every single one of us. But it isn't like dating service where you go out and they match you according to a few points. And it's, you know, I tried doing that and I looked in it and I'm a person in between the lines. Well, you've given me this and you've given me that, but I could take a bit of this and a bit of that, but you don't address that. You're making me choose one or the other. So therefore it's not representing me, right? Yeah. So, and how you expect to find somebody with that type of thing? And where is the emphasis on your own self-love bringing to the table? So you're going about it the right way. In order
Yeah.
to attract the right love, you've got to be the love. And there are so many people who have not been given the permission to love themselves.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. No, it's definitely it's definitely a journey when you get on it. And I love what you said about the matchmaking as well, because I completely agree. You know, it's how can you, because when you think about matchmaking, and I've got, I know a few people within the industry, but when you think about matchmaking, they meet you for maybe half an hour. How can you get your personality over to someone in that shortest, space of time, and also through a few questions?
Right.
And they're also matching you with someone who they've just got a feel for.
Right.
Work that way. And this is why I love to be able to empower people to actually understand this is what you're looking for. Here's how you recognize it. Now go and enjoy it.
You're working not only with the mind, the heart, the soul, and the spirit.
Yes.
Which in turn changes the entire body.
Yeah, it brings confidence and clarity.
The way you walk, the way you feel, everything about yourself. Instead of on guard, you're more open and ready to receive. But again, then people have a fear, but I'm going to attract the wrong people. No, the wrong people don't see you. They don't feel your vibe, right? It's the people that are on the same wavelength that will attract that vibe.
Yes, yes. And the nice thing is, if they do, for whatever reason, they're not right, exactly what to do to disarm them. Because truth is, it's like family members. Sometimes you can't choose your own family, and you might have narcissistic people in your family, so it's knowing how to deal with those different, difficult situations if they do arise. If you do have a low day or a high day, it doesn't matter, you know what to do.
Right. Fundamentally, folks, you want that forever love, be that forever love, right? Then you will attract that partner. But you also may find that you really actually are enjoying your own love of self for a while, that you really are enjoying getting to know yourself and what it is you want out of life and where you're going. And then along the way, you happen to meet that right person because you're doing the work on yourself. And when that time is right, you will meet that person. But, it doesn't have to be within the 21 days. It doesn't have to be within a certain time period. It's about your journey of loving yourself and where it's taking you. And if you're looking for a loving partner, then you will attract the right loving partner. And you want somebody who is not only worked on themselves, but is still willing to work on themselves. Because life is a constant self-development, isn't it?
It really is.
It ain't over, baby, until we're in the ground.
Right. I think one of my mentors turns around and says, "Yeah, we're like onions. You think you got past one layer. It's like, no, here's 7 more."
Yeah, exactly. But that's also, again, what makes it intriguing. Is that you know yourself right now in this persona, this time and space, and then something happens and you discover something more about yourself, or you meet that one and you discover more about yourself, or you reach a certain age and you discover more about yourself. That's what makes life worth living.
Yes. Not being funny, even like if you think about last year, where you were last year or the year before that, or 10 years ago, when you start actually mapping out and seeing your journey of how you've grown, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I think it's Steve Jobs, I think he comes out with the dots never make sense going forward, but they always make sense when you look back. And
that's,
I love that.
what do they say? Hindsight is 2020, right? But the thing is don't look back and beat yourself up because you reacted on what you thought you knew at that time. Now you know better. Learn from what you did in the past and say, you know what, there's a better direction I can take, or I could treat myself differently in that way, or I could treat others differently in that way. It is all about that 2020 vision is about learning that there is a better option and applying. Not beating yourself up, not persecuting yourself, not getting depressed about it, but willing to learn.
Yes, exactly. All about growth, that love, that compassion, because that's the only way you can truly grow.
And, we talk about empathy, but compassion, I see these people jumping in the water to save an animal, or stopping traffic on the highway or doing something that is completely, not just life risking, but just empathy for whom they're saving. And that kind of compassion is the sexiest thing out there, folks.
Right.
It really is.
Has to give beyond themselves.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And, don't go out there and be a hero just to say, look at me, I'm a hero, because these people don't consider themselves hero at all. They saw somebody or something in need and they knew they had to do something about it. That's a core compassion, a core empathy that you want to know.
That's the difference between, real and fake.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. And if your date takes longer to get ready than you, that's a question too. But yeah, it's also, look at how children and animals are around your person you're interested in, because if they're standoffish, pay attention to them. There actually has been a study with border collies that if they don't like somebody, I've had 4 of them. If they don't like somebody, trust it. They have an absolute instinct on people. And looking back with my border collie, I trusted her. If she didn't like someone and I didn't see it, it's like, okay, I'm on guard. Thank you. Because they were always right. They're always right. So your animals and your kids will pick up, something, and that you're seeing the glossy and they're seeing the fine print. So pay attention.
So true. So true. Because we do get, when we're children, especially when, we get told to ignore it.
Yeah.
It's often like, oh, I don't feel comfortable with, Uncle Bob over there.
Right.
Don't be silly. It's lovely. Go and say hello. Brought you a lovely Christmas present. And that's how we get taught out of it.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Don't have that filter at all.
No.
But yeah.
Listen to our children. Listen to our pets. Listen to our gut. Right? Sometimes our head can be bedazzled. Our heart can be bedazzled. But listen to the core of you. The core of you will always lead you right. But first, you've got to attach to your core. Right? So they need to take your program on their own self-discovery of their own self-love in order to attract the right love. So what kind of programs have you got going right now?
Yeah, so we've got the Love with Intelligence Academy. So that goes on for 6 months. It's quite a journey because we like to really dive in deep. And then we've also got a one-to-one program which is called Elite Love.
Right. And you know what? You're tired of being single. You want to have somebody in your life. You're tired of bad relationships. Well, reset you back to the core love of self, love of life, love of wonderment, just radiating that love, and you will find that right person. But you've got to do the work first. This isn't a downloadable app, meet Mr. Right, Hallmark, Disney thing. No, it is, you have to be willing to deprogram some of the old programming in order to insert some wondrous programming that really will serve you. How do they get hold of you, love?
Thank you. So it's lovewithintelligence.com.
Love with intelligence, folks. Intelligence and love is not something you normally put together, but lovewithintelligence.com, because we know that when people fall in love, it's and it's like all form of intelligence goes, because they're going with the chemistry of it, and that dies down very, very quickly. And as a couple, you are going to have many roller coasters in life. And the stronger you are together, the more you're going to weather any storm that comes your way.
Exactly. Couldn't put it better myself.
Always a delight having you here. I look forward to having you back again.
Yeah, no, I freaking love this. So thank you so much for having me on again.
My pleasure. February 14th isn't the only day you love, folks. And it's the corny day, the chocolates and this and that. It's celebrated whichever way you want to. But you know what? If you are single right now and you're going on this journey of your own self-discovery, of loving yourself, take yourself out on February 14th. Romance yourself, right? And just show yourself that I can love me And when I love me, I can attract love. And if you need help in doing this because your old patterning is in the way, the love intelligence hasn't inserted itself, please go to Lily, because she has this wonderful program, and do sign up for her newsletters. They're always full of wonderful, incredible tips and something that can help guide you along the way. She doesn't leave you out in the cold. You know, you can do the program and there's still plenty to learn from her. She is based in the UK, but she can work with you anywhere, right?
That's correct. Thank you.
So folks, lots of love to each and every one of you. And the more you love yourself, the more you give of love, the more you embrace love in life, the higher the frequency of love grows, where we cannot do any harm to others, to harm anyone else is to harm ourselves, the more we'll have healing in this world. So you don't just owe it to yourself, you owe it to the whole of the human society. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. Please tune in to our selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows and you will see all the other genres that we have from you. Every week on Tuesday, we bring you new shows from illuminating people. If you know someone that should be interviewed, please contact us at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com. Now stay tuned for your next show.